Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades, and we are back into Married at First Sight UK series 8, and we are now on episode 30. Everybody, I should I say really everybody is back from their home stays. But before we get into it, as I say, please hit that subscribe button so when you know. Oh, for fuck's sake. How can I get my fucking intro wrong? Jesus, Tehran beat. Hey, let's start again. Please hit that subscribe button and that notification button so when you know I am on and doing videos. And we'll get into this episode, shall we? So it's the last confessions of the couch, aka the commitment ceremony. And it's looking mighty dismal for some. Let's just put it out there. It ain't looking great for some people, and we know which ones there are. So back at the flat, we know that some people have returned without their counterparts. We know Georges came back by himself, and we know Thomas came back by himself. So basically, Peggy is saying she doesn't want to make the mistakes again, and when she should have listened to her mum previously, she did not. So now her family's opinions are her constant. Her family's opinions are everything to her in that sense. My thing is you can take a person's opinion up to a point at the end of the day. Their opinion is not gonna make you happy in the long run, because Peggy is suiting her needs to her family's opinions, yeah, to make them happy. What about making yourself happy? Going after what you want, regardless of what your family say at the end of the day. So basically, Peggy is saying that her dad turned around and said he would be lovely as a friend, but not a son-in-law. All I'm going to say, as I said in my last episode, is it's Peggy that's giving the impression of who Georges is to her family. That's all I can say. It's Peggy who is giving the impression of who Georges is to her family, basing it on what she's experienced and what she's felt thus far. Do I think her opinion is correct about Georges? I don't. In the beginning, I thought Georges was a bit of a live wire, but as time has gone on, he hasn't been too bad, to be fair. She could have done worse. Georges is still willing to work it all out, and Peggy thinks that in choosing Georges, she may be failing her parents, especially if she gets it wrong. So I would believe that Peggy's putting that pressure upon herself in order to get it right. So then we get to JJ and Ella, and basically JJ and Ella aren't in a good space, because JJ is saying that Ella's still drinking to a point where she becomes hella disrespectful towards him, and this is where arguments start from. And Ella is saying it's not working as she wished it to be. Now, all I would say is, looks aren't everything, my guy. Looks are not everything, my guys. Like, when you are looking for a relationship with someone, you need to look past the looks. Yeah, you need to look past the looks, because maybe JJ, yes, you still like Ella. You do. You still like Ella. You still want to try and work shit out with her. But maybe in Bianca's stance, if you had looked past everything else, yeah, you may have found yourself a good girl there. That's all I'm going to say. That is all I'm going to say on it. So they've spent the night apart, and Ella's getting worried and saying that she feels nervous because she doesn't know where like his head is at. And she thinks that it may be too late for her in terms of apologizing to JJ, because she's done it too many one time. So Ella knows exactly what the issues are. Ella knows exactly how she's meant to rectify it, but she thinks it may be too late. At least she's accepting responsibility for her actions. Now, there's accepting responsibility for your actions, and then there is actually working towards changing the impact that you're having with your behaviors. There's two differences. You can accept your responsibility all day long, but it's about, are you going to change that particular behavior? Because if you're not, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work at the end of the day. You're still going to be this toxic, vile person whenever you've had a motherfucking drink at the end of the day. So are you going to change that particular behavior for us to work this out? So then we see Paul having a conversation with Thomas, and Thomas is absolutely broken, like really broken by the scenario that's happened. And I'm just like, I didn't see it coming. Like, I don't think anybody watching this saw it coming between the both, saw this as the straw that will break the camel's back between Thomas and Roz. I didn't see it coming in the slightest. Now, me, I'm going to be honest, where I sat there and when I was listening to Roz talk, I was like, hold on. Is Roz going to come out with the fact that she had somebody else all this time? Is she going to come out with that? Is that what she's trying to say? Because that's where my head went. It weren't with the reason which we shall get to that she did give went. It went to that point blank reason, oh, she's got somebody else. She ain't told nobody, or they found out and now she's got to come clean and tell everybody on the couch. But as again, we'll get there. So then we get to the confessions of the couch and you see everybody walk in. Straight away I noticed that Roz is holding Ella's hand, and sits down at the back, and it takes a long time for Thomas to come in. So Thomas comes in after, but he's sitting so far away from Roz that you can see, wow, you can see the difference in how they are with each other. Like, they wouldn't even necessarily look at each other. They wouldn't touch. I didn't even think they said hello to each other. And you could see the absolute difference in how they presented from how they were previously. So it's a case of who leaves and who stays. So Peggy and George get to the couch first. And basically Peggy has allowed for everyone to have an opinion on their relationship so far. Peggy turns around and was honest in the fact that this is what her family had said about George. And her mum had turned around, where I think it was her dad, she said to George, but her mum had turned around and says that she wouldn't pick him for a son-in-law. So she's torn with what her family thinks and how she feels. And I'm like, well, how do you feel, Peggy? Because you haven't necessarily said in a roundabout way or even directly how you feel about George. Because my first thought is, just admit you don't want this man. Like, you really don't want this man. If you're going to let other people's opinions, as you do with the people within the experiment, then the people outside of the experiment affect how you think and feel regards to the person that you decided to marry and you decided to stay with, then what are you doing there? It tells me you don't really put no onus on this man, that you really don't want him. So basically George says that he left because he wanted Peggy to have some time on her own with her family and her thoughts. And you can see throughout this whole segment that George is literally just clinging to this woman like a limpet. Like, he's got his arm wrapped around her shoulder, he's got his hand on her knee or on her arm, and he's just holding on to her as he's talking. So basically she's saying that it's been tough. It's been a kind of tough week for her because she has priorities, and with her family she doesn't want to make any mistakes. And she doesn't want to hurt her family, and that's what she's afraid of. So she, in Peggy's infinite wisdom, decided to ask her mum if she should stay or leave the experiment. And of course, knowing that your mum doesn't like George, she ain't going to tell you to fucking stay, is she? She ain't going to say, my girl, you stay, you try and work that out, you be with that man and yada yada. She ain't going to tell you that. She's literally going to tell you that she wanted you to leave, which is what she did do. She told you she wanted you to leave. And I thought to myself, are you going to be ruled by your parents and your family for the rest of your life, or are you going to make yourself happy? Because at the end of the day, that is going to be one lonely existence. So she was then saying to the experts that her family always wins. And said that the one thing that her family won't do is tell her who I shouldn't be with unless they really think that they're no good, and that I couldn't see it for myself. Now, George has been open and honest with you from the get-go. George has been open honest with Peggy from the get-go in regards to who he is, how he comes across, what he does for a living, what he doesn't do, and his gaming and everything. He's been like an open book. So, as I said, the impression that the parents get of George will only come from Peggy. It will only come from Peggy. So, basically, I'm kind of like, so what is she going to do? Is she going to give her family the complete control of her happiness and how her life should work out? So then it did please me when Peggy turned around and said that, you know what, I need to be a bit selfish and think about what I want. And she did pick George. So basically, all I'm going to say is we'll see how that carries on, because in my head now, Peggy's just put it out there that she's just put George above her family. So basically the message that sends to George is you better not make me regret my decision because I've gone against my family for you. So you better not fuck up. That's how it speaks to me. That is how it speaks to me. George had better not put 1 foot motherfucking wrong because I've gone against my family to be with ya. I'm sorry. It doesn't come off as heartfelt to me. It comes off as this is a little bit of the game that Peggy is playing at the end of the day, and she knows how to play it very well. So then they made the decision to stay. So then we get to Tasha and Paul, and I'll say it again. The Confessions of the Couch that I've seen so far, I think it's been 2 of them. This is the 3rd one where I haven't seen Paul wear his wedding ring in the slightest. I'm not saying that that's a message. I'm just saying I ain't seen him put it on. So Paul talked about the fact that his friends during the homestays did bring up some concerns in regards to Tasha and her fiery side. And Tasha said that she does hold her hands up. That sometimes when she does say things, it can come off as rudeness, and it kind of can come off as rudeness, but you kind of can see the context in between what she's saying to what she isn't saying at the end of the day. And she says that sometimes it can be just straight up sarcasm. They told Paul to unpack how he feels, because people seem to think that Paul is like this kind of doormat that takes everything that Tasha does against him, when that's not the truth in the slightest. And Paul is saying that if he does have an issue, he can speak up and say it to her. He isn't afraid to do that, which he has shown time and time again, that he is not afraid to tell her exactly where she's gone wrong or where she needs to think about certain things. Or, case in point, when his mum was upset, thinking that he'd upset Tasha because she just walked out without saying nothing to no one, he pulled her up about that as well. And he wasn't afraid of the ire that he got back, because at the end of the day, he put it back to her. Why are you getting angry for? Because at the end of the day, I'm not disputing that you weren't ill, which you didn't do. Sometimes he says that he sometimes takes time to think about things, and it may be not that deep, so they just hit a kind of speed bump. So then Paul referenced them being together for, like, you know, learning each other for 10 years and stuff like that. And as Tasha said, she can see herself with Paul for a very, very long time. And I do hope these two do make it, to be fair. Yes, they may have had their little blips here and there, but I do hope they're able to make it and make a good go of it. So basically, they made the decision to stay. And then we get to Laura and Arthur. And yeah, basically Arthur turned around and said that their homestays could have gone better. Laura talks about the letter, because she realised that it did come from Erica and Jordan. I didn't realise it come from Erica and Jordan, but she did admit that, yes, because Erica come forth and did say the letter did come from them too. And Erica admitted to the parts in which she'd written that letter. But Jordan, when it was brought up, turned around and threw Erica under that bus. And I'm thinking, this is the problem, Jordan. You don't listen to what is being said. Yes, I think Laura orchestrated that whole shit between you and freaking Erica at the table. She orchestrated that because she was going to get you back in any way, shape or form at the end of the day for the shit you said about her and Arthur, and yet you still came at them within the letter. So Laura and Erica since then have had a discussion about the letter, and Erica was open and honest in regards to what she'd agreed to, what she'd written down, but Jordan didn't know that because Erica didn't tell her. But Laura did turn around and say, well, Erica did accept that X, Y, and Z, but then Jordan literally had to make it clear that no. It wasn't just me. Erica did and everybody had to jump in and say, even the expert had to turn around and say, look, this is not your segment. We are here to talk about Laura and Arthur, okay? So you can keep your opinions and that thought to yourself. So yeah, that Jordan was gung-ho to throw that girl right under the freaking wheels and fucking reverse back onto her. Anyway, so Laura brought up the fact that what happened between her friends and Arthur, and it didn't go very well, and Arthur didn't react very well to it, and that Arthur felt attacked and immediately went under defense. And basically she said that point in time she was conflicted because she had her husband and then her friends who have known her for years going against each other, and she was drained, and she just wanted everyone to get on. Laura felt that she was in the middle of it all, to be honest, and I'll have to say I'll agree with that. Like she was sat there like a billion old mates. They just went over her head completely, and even when she tried to talk about it, nobody wanted to listen to her. Laura said that Arthur needs to take consideration, like more consideration to how he puts things across sometimes. And I'm just like, as I said, Arthur surprised me in how he reacted in that situation, because it seems as though everyone and their motherfucking dog has an opinion on Laura and Arthur and their relationship. No one has literally sat and spoke to Arthur about situations and how he thinks and feels. No one has done that. And also when they get to the commitment of the couch, confessions of the couch. Also when they get to confessions of the couch, it's Laura becomes the mouthpiece. Laura becomes the I'm this and says what Arthur needs to do, but nobody actually says, you know what, Arthur, what about you? What do you think you bring? Or what is it that you think Laura needs to do for you and X? I don't see anyone doing much of that with Arthur. But Arthur does turn around and say that he himself doesn't think that he's good enough for Laura. And I think that's because of the opinions of others have made him start to believe and doubt his basically ability to be with someone like Laura. But then they both made the decision to stay. Laura was basically coming to a point where she said she didn't know what she was going to do. And what she heard her friends say was devastating, and that she's hell of a woman and she's done hiding who she is. And I think because there is a point initially within these stages that Laura's literally minimized herself and diminished the person that she is in order to support and be there for Arthur, to basically prop him up. And I think she has shrunk herself in the process, and she's starting to realize that. So she is basically saying, I don't give a damn about what anybody else fucking thinks about me in this process. I'ma be me, I'ma do me, and you can like it or lump it at the end of the day. So then we move on to Adrian and Matt, and basically they do look a lot better with each other, and homestays, as they agreed, was basically a good thing for them. It gelled them more together. And Adrian was so tongue-in-cheek when she says, well, Matt is besotted by me, and Matt was, he didn't deny it though, because he really wants this to work with Adrian. And I also think that Adrian wants it to work with Matt as well, to be fair. But basically she was saying that maybe he's complacent in life, but what they have is undeniable. And I think that at that point is when Adrian has listened to what her friends have said. And it seems that they are getting that fun factor now from the homestays. It hasn't dwindled, it's carried over back into their actual life. And they both made the decision to stay. And then we get onto Ella and JJ, and they are not doing great. So JJ was explaining that the homestays was actually positive, and then in the next few days it's been tough to be around Ella. And he explained to the fact that she would drink and become hella disrespectful towards him. And Ella explained it as though that, you know, sometimes she can be flamboyant and a bit crazy and doesn't think before she speaks. And that personality trait of her is then heightened when she has a drink or when she gets drunk. And JJ says that he doesn't think it comes from a place of malice, but the shit that she says to him hurts a hell of a lot. And she's basically saying that Ella turned around and said that she wasn't going to say it, but she did. She did the old snoop on the Instagram and checked out JJ's ex, basically, to compare, to make comparisons, which is the worst thing you can do when you don't feel so good about yourself at the end of the day. When you have these insecurities, being who you are, in terms of the fact that JJ can go out and get this type of woman, what the fuck is he doing with me? You should not have done the search and find thing on Instagram in any way, shape or form, because that will not help you. That will not help you at all. So basically, it's looking like Ella's doing self-sabotaging at the moment. And Ella believes that she is skating on thin ice with JJ. And I think she is, because it's not once or twice that this shit has happened. It's more than the 3 times that this has happened now. And JJ's getting to the point of, well, how much more can I keep giving you these chances and you keep taking it for foolishness, basically, and doing the same kind of things over and over again. And there's got to be a point where you've got to fix this. Like, you seriously got to fix this. I can't fix it for you. You have got to fix it. So basically, she's saying she has work to do, but that doesn't mean that she has to do it without him. Now, I understand that, but she also has to do that work for herself in order to change the trajectory of her relationship with JJ, because right now, you're literally sending it up the swanny. So she needs to fix her shit at the end of the day. So they made a decision to stay. See, then you get to Erica and Jordan. They're not on the same page at all. They are not gelling, nothing. So basically, they go through the whole scenario in regards to the dinner. Then you see them break down. Then you see them fucking start arguing with each other. Then it went tit for tat. And then Jordan had the audacity. This is where I will take up for Erica on this bit. Jordan had the audacity to ask Erica at first. This is before the experts stopped it, because Charlene stopped it right then and there when he asked the question. Well, what is it that you have done for me? And I thought, Jordan, are you off your head now? What is it that Erica has done for you? Come on now. And then that's where the experts, that Charlene had to step in and say, no. And I thought they rightfully stopped it there. Because at the end of the day, when they get to that stage, they are not seeing the good in each other. It becomes about one-upmanship and who does more for who and who does better than who, and and that's how it goes with them. They need to learn how to communicate effectively, because right now they're not. So basically, Erica says that she needs him to start listening and communicating. Jordan said that he'd be willing to show what we need to be with each other, not just at our best. And I agree, they both have to be right. They both have to be right. And as I've already said, they need to get to a point in space before they get to the tit for tat shit, that they actually step back and say, do you know what? Give me a minute and let us come back to this conversation. Let's stick a pin in it here and then come back to this conversation afterwards. So they made the decision to stay. And then we get to Roz and Thomas. And it just went right back to the beginning. Like, it was proper awkward. They wouldn't even look at each other. They wouldn't touch each other. there was everything could just been burst wide open. And I have to say, I did catch a tear. I did catch a tear because I really wanted these two to work. And Thomas said that he was feeling, he went on these homestays feeling so good, and he literally started to break down, and they both started to break down. And Roz was basically explaining that, you know, they went and they met his mum, and his mum was talking about kids, and then she was like, oh no, we can't have children just yet. That's not going to happen. But then Roz then went on to the fact that they went back to her place and then found that Thomas was really low on her list of priorities and not as high as he should have been, and she didn't want to do that to Thomas. And as I said from a previous episode, this is where Thomas turned around and said, well, for someone you know for 2 months I'm not going to be a priority, and it's normal. And this is when I knew something was going on for us, because whatever Thomas said to try and reassure her, to say that he's willing to fight for this, to fight for her, to fight for this marriage, he would do that. And he was trying to reassure her of this, and it's like she did not want that reassurance. She'd backed out completely, and it come to the point where she literally then had to tell the truth as to why. And she basically said that even though the mum had this talk, she went back to the homestays and was like, oh, like all in with her niece and everything like that, and realised that actually I do want children, she just don't want them with Thomas. And that's what put paid to everything for her. She just don't want them. She wants children, she just didn't want them with Thomas. And I thought, raw, that is a bitter pill to swallow. And that broke Thomas down completely, because he was like, there was no way that he could fight against that, because at the end of the day, Thomas wants to have someone where he gets to a point where he does want children, but he at least wants his partner to be able to see themselves having children with him. Like, would she have just given him a complex? Like, what's so bad about me that you don't want to have kids with me? Like, seriously. But there was no coming back from that. There was no coming back from that. And all I can say is that she's going to regret it. She's going to regret losing Thomas, because he is a good man. So when she sits there, like, after she's had a partner or two, or saying, how come I can never find a good man? Thomas was your good man, and you let him go. You let him go. That's all I'm going to say. But that's where this episode ended, and I'll be back again for the next one. As I say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button, so when you know I'm on and doing videos. And I'll be back to grace your screens very soon. Peace out.